Monolith Productions was founded on October 25th, 1994. This year, 2025, would have marked 31 years for the studio best known for classics like the Blood, No One Lives Forever, and f.e.a.r franchises. However, on February 25th, 2025, the studio was dissolved by parent company Warner Bros. Games, along with two other studios, WB Games San Diego and Player First Games. This closure would result in the cancellation of the Wonder Woman game that was under development at Monolith Studios, as WB was, quote, refocusing development efforts on core intellectual properties, end quote.
Yeah, right, dude.
Monolith Productions had been around for 3 decades, and in that time they had developed incredible and long-lasting games. Some of which I have played for dozens of hours myself, and others I have only heard about. So recently, I decided to play 5 of Monolith's greatest games, look into their development to see what made these games so great in the first place, and see what the reception was following the release of each title. We will also be taking a look at the sequels for each title, and their reception, as well as some of Monolith's other projects in between making these critical hits. This was Monolith Studios' 30 Years in Gaming.
What is your bidding, master?
Tell them of Blood, my son.
Blood is a first-person shooter developed on the Build engine and released in 1997. But for this video, I played the excellent remaster developed by Night Dive Studios, released in 2019, and that is the version you are seeing now. In Blood, players take on the role of Caleb, an undead gunslinger in the 20th century who sets out to take revenge on those that betrayed him, the demonic cult he used to lead, and the demon they follow, Chernobog.
Taken your love, and now I will take your life. Consider my power in a hollow grave.
At the time, Blood was known and criticized for its challenging difficulty and graphic violence. However, despite these criticisms, Blood would also become known as one of the best games made on the Build engine. Some other notable Build engine titles are Power Slave, Duke Nukem 3D, and Shadow Warrior, titles that are all classics in their own right. The Build engine allowed for destructible environments, which helped games made on the engine stand out among similar titles of the time. Blood received largely positive reviews, praised for its creative level design, dark humor, atmosphere, and gameplay. Blood's success would lead to a sequel, Blood 2: The Chosen, released in 1998, which was not as well received as its predecessor. Elvis Bacon of PC Gaming World wrote in his review at the time, quote, Blood 2 has neither the gameplay to compete with the definitive title of the genre, Half-Life, nor the character of its predecessor, end quote. Ouch. This will not be the last time we see a Monolith title compared to a Half-Life game, the FPS gold standard at the time.
It's howdy doody time, kiddies. The bad man is here.
The Blood series would end with 2, and Monolith would go on to develop some okay games afterwards, like Claw, a platformer starring a famous cat pirate, Captain Nathaniel Joseph Claw, who fights against the Cocker Spaniards. Do you get it? Cocker Spaniel, Cocker Spaniard. You get it. Or maybe you prefer 1998's first-person anime-style mech shooter, Shogo Mobile Armor Division, where you take on the role of an MCA pilot on a mission to assassinate a rebel leader known only as Gabriel during a brutal war on the planet Cronus. In this time between making critical hits, the most notable game for me is Sanity, Aiken's Artifact, an insane top-down action game where you play as a psionic-powered agent, Nathaniel Kane, voiced by freaking Ice-T.
Seriously? Man, get your ass up and go get me that footage. Stop playing with me.
Of course. I'll get right to the point. I'd like to know that we can count on you to help us again in the future.
Have I helped you before?
Yes, your excellent work in taking down Ms. Divine.
Let's get something straight. I did that only because I was forced to.
You bet I went looking to buy it as soon as I found out it existed, but unfortunately this game appears to be abandonware, so I did not get to play it for this video. But if this video does well and let's say gets 1,000 likes, I will dig it up and we can check it out. I mean, look at this freaking thing. Monolith even got G-Man in here, so take that, Half-Life. Sanity is also notable as it was the last game Monolith developed before creating something that could go toe-to-toe with Half-Life, the Golden God.
The Golden God! Let's not rush to judgment, shall we?
Rush to judgment?
I think the facts speak plainly enough.
The operative No One Lives Forever, or NOLF for short, is a first-person shooter developed on Monolith's in-house engine, LOTR, and released on Windows in 2000. No One Lives Forever would later be ported onto the Mac OS X and PS2 in 2002, which for those of you familiar with the title, you likely played it on the PS2.
Yes, sir. I mean, no, sir. I mean, yes to the first part and no to the second part, sir.
During development, Monolith had difficulty securing a publisher, which would lead to the game mutating constantly in order to please potential publishers and marketing departments. NOLF actually started life as a mission-based, anime-inspired paramilitary action thriller intended to be a spiritual sequel to one of Monolith's prior games we discussed earlier, Shogo Mobile Armor Division, which released in 1998.
Here you are. Prepare to die, maggot.
You again?
You're so mean.
Even the working title, No One Lives Forever, was at one point going to be changed due to fear of legal issues arising with comparisons to the Bond franchise, specifically the novel Nobody Lives Forever.
No hard feelings, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, I'd probably be worried too. Thankfully, the working title was never changed and stayed consistent throughout the entire development process.
You're joking. I never joke about my work, 007.
Once landing the publisher Fox Interactive, the game would finally solidify into what we have today. However, Monolith would go on to use that original anime-inspired paramilitary action thriller concept in one of its most well-known and praised titles, but more on that later.
I'll do my best.
In No One Lives Forever, players take on the role of Kate Archer,
Agent Archer, how thoughtful of you to join us.
a spy for Unity, a shadow organization that works to maintain world peace. The game is known for its stylistic representation of the 1960s and the spy films and TV series of the decade that inspired the game's world and narrative. Some films you would expect, like the first Bond movie, 1967's Casino Royale,
This is an historic day in our saga, Sir James.
were similar to Kate Archer, Sir James Bond 007 has to stop the use of a biological weapon. Although I do not recall Kate Archer having to deal with the real evil mastermind being her nephew who defected and plans to release a biological weapon that will, and this is not a joke,
When distributed in the atmosphere, will make all women beautiful and destroy all men over 4'6".
making him the big man that all the ladies thirst after. That guy had a huge Napoleon complex. To some films you may not expect, like the Pink Panther movies, a comedy mystery franchise that started in 1963 and stars an inept French police detective, Inspector Jacques Clouseau, as he bumbles his way through various cases in each film. And I'm sorry if I pronounce his name wrong, but I don't speak French and I don't eat baguettes.
I'm sorry I was whack.
Now, given Kate Archer's aptitude for spycraft, I doubt Jacques served much inspiration for her character.
Certainly not.
No One Lives Forever received critical acclaim upon its release and would garner comparisons to the juggernaut Half-Life, much like Blood 2 before it. But unlike Blood 2, these comparisons were to praise the game and not to malign it. Many reviewers at the time called No One Lives Forever the best first-person shooter since 1998's Half-Life. It would receive multiple Game of the Year awards and eventually release a Game of the Year edition in 2001. Due to its success, a sequel was greenlit and would release in 2002. No One Lives Forever 2, A Spy in Harm's Way, was just as well received as its predecessor, receiving critical acclaim and multiple Game of the Year awards.
It's the perfect job.
Monolith would revisit the No One Lives Forever universe the following year in 2003 with a spin-off title, Contract Jack. Unfortunately, the game would receive mixed reviews and poor sales, effectively ending the franchise on a bit of a low note.
I'll be seeing you soon.
Yeah, right, dude.
In 2003, Monolith would also begin work on the Matrix Online MMO, and this lofty project would consume most of the studio's resources for the next 2 years until its release in 2005. At which point the further development and ongoing operations of the MMO were handed off to Sony Online Entertainment, or SOE for short. During their work on the Matrix Online, Monolith also had a team hard at work evolving that old concept we mentioned before into what would become
fear is a basic human emotion.
f.e.a.r, First Encounter Assault Recon, or just f.e.a.r, is a first-person shooter developed on the Jupiter EX iteration of the LOTR engine and released in 2005 on Windows PC. The Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 ports would release later in 2006 and 2007 respectively.
Do you know the true meaning of fear?
The Jupiter EX engine had major improvements over the prior iteration, featuring havoc physics which allowed for dynamic real-time collision, making for more visceral firefights as bullets shred enemies and explosives rip the environment apart around the player. During development, the concept of F.e.a.r, which we know was the original anime-inspired paramilitary action thriller concept of No One Lives Forever, was expanded on with new ideas and inspirations from Monolith's work on The Matrix Online and the 1999 Matrix movie, of course, which I assume everyone is familiar with.
You have to see it for yourself.
A film you may not be familiar with that would inspire the visceral and bombastic atmosphere of F.e.a.r's shootouts was John Woo's 1992 Hong Kong action thriller classic, Hard Boiled, a movie that is revered for its over-the-top and destructive firefights. These new gun-fu inspirations would lead to F.e.a.r's most well-known feature, reflex time, where the player can slow down time on command, letting them weave through gunfire and take out threats. Now, reflex time in the first F.e.a.r would slow everything down, including the player, making it feel more balanced than it would in later entries when reflex time would basically become Quicksilver time from that one X-Men movie. The titular First Encounter Assault Recon is an elite group of the United States military tasked with investigating and confronting paranormal phenomena and threats.
Jin, we need you up here.
On my way.
Looks like we're too late, boss. Just leftovers.
In F.e.a.r, players assume the role of Point Man, a sergeant with insanely fast reflexes newly assigned to the F.e.a.r unit. Your team is assigned a mission to investigate an incident involving an escaped test subject named Paxton Fettel, who has assumed psychic control over a battalion of cloned super soldiers.
Fettel is one of the commanders.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. This is why nobody takes us seriously. Military clones.
A full battalion of them, highly trained and heavily armed.
A battalion? What are we supposed to do against 1,000 super soldiers?
You see, the military had been conducting experiments that would allow a single commander direct psychic control over an army of mindless cloned super soldiers in an effort to negate the loss of real life in combat.
Magnificent, aren't they?
Yeah, because these secret super soldier military projects always work out so well.
A soldier? You're making brainless monsters!
While tracking Fettel, the player is haunted by terrifying visions that give glimpses of horrific past experiments as the mystery unravels from firefight to firefight. The nature of the experiments are the mystery, and given the result, Paxton Fettel, it is safe to assume they were a huge success and he has never been more mentally stable. F.e.a.r was well received upon release, and once again, Monolith would garner favorable comparisons to the Half-Life series, but this time to the recently released Half-Life 2. Some reviewers even stating it was the best shooter since Half-Life 2. Other reviewers wrote at the time that F.e.a.r is one of, if not the best shooter of the year, finding its gameplay mechanics to be superior to similar titles like Max Payne, released in 2001, which had a bullet time mechanic similar to F.e.a.r's Reflex mode, and Doom 3, released in 2004, which fell into the same first-person shooter action horror genre bucket. Two standalone expansions were released following F.e.a.r's success, Extraction Point and Perseus Mandate, both developed by Timegate Studios. You may know Timegate Studios from their later work on hit games like Section 8 and Alien Colonial Marines.
Oh shit, I'm empty, cover me!
Yeah, they would end up filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy and went defunct in 2013.
So long, gay boys!
Neither expansion was as well received as the main game, and any lore from these expansions would be retconned when Monolith would return to helm the series for the 2009 sequel, F.e.a.r 2 Project Origin. However, 2011's F.e.a.r 3 would not be developed by Monolith, and instead would be helmed by Day One Studios, the developer who handled the console ports for the original F.e.a.r and the future developers of Fracture, the hit 2008 console exclusive release.
Yeah, right, dude.
Although both F.e.a.r sequels received decent reviews upon release, neither could live up to the first game, and another Monolith series would end on a bit of a low note. But before any F.e.a.r sequels would be developed, Monolith had another critical hit to drop. Only a month after F.e.a.r's successful launch, on November 22nd, 2005, another new twisted IP from Monolith,
I'm actually very dark and twisted,
would carve its way onto Microsoft's next-gen console at the time, the Xbox 360, as a launch exclusive.
You will be blamed for their deaths.
Open up, it's the police.
Condemned Criminal Origins is a first-person action survival horror game developed on the Jupiter EX engine and released in 2005. Condemned was a launch title for the Xbox 360, with the PC version to be released in 2006, a little less than 6 months after the initial console release. Prior to development, Monolith conducted extensive research into real-world serial killers as they wanted to understand the psychology of these individuals to better inform their story and world. During development, films such as Silence of the Lambs, Jacob's Ladder, Seven, 28 Days Later, and Saw, as well as TV shows like The X-Files, would inspire and influence Monolith's game design, narrative, and atmosphere. A common element in all these films is the dark, gruesome, and oppressive atmospheres, which is well represented in the cramped hallways of Condemned's dilapidated buildings as the player investigates horrific crime scenes. In Condemned, players assume the role of Ethan Thomas, an agent for the FBI's Serial Crime Unit, or SCU.
Thomas, I don't got all day here. Let's get a move on.
In the fictional city of Metro, based on the real-world city of Seattle, there has been a surge in both assaults committed by vagrants and serial killings, and Agent Thomas believes these two events are connected.
People are scared. We need to get this one. Follow me, bodies this way.
In the course of his investigation, Ethan is framed for murder by a serial killer known as the Matchmaker and is forced to run, pursued by his former colleagues at the FBI and SCU.
An unfortunate scene. You did your best, but it could not be helped.
The detectives?
They're dead. Shot with your weapon. And you will be blamed for their deaths.
Ridiculous. I'll just tell them.
What? Tell them the truth? They have already decided the truth.
This is insane. I can't just give up the Bureau.
It's already been taken from you. Now join me and help yourself.
While on the run, Ethan continues his investigation in order to clear his name and finds himself in the center of a conspiracy that goes far beyond any one serial killer.
I didn't kill those guys.
I know, Thomas. Well, I'm not certain what I do or don't know, but I'm pretty sure I still trust you. And that goes a long way.
Condemned was well received by critics who praised the game's combat, visuals, AI, and especially the sound design and atmosphere. The game would go on to become the 5th best-selling launch title on the Xbox 360 and would win a number of game awards from multiple outlets. The success of Condemned would lead to a sequel, Condemned 2 Bloodshot, a console exclusive that released on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in 2008 that was also very well received. Official Xbox Magazine's Dan Emmerich found the sequel to be an improvement in almost all aspects over the original, calling the atmosphere, quote, its finest creation, end quote. Other reviewers at the time would state that Condemned did tackle most of the criticisms leveled at the franchise, although there was criticism around the story and multiplayer, with some reviewers calling the story unsatisfying and the multiplayer pointless. Unfortunately, this would be the last we would see from the Condemned series.
Interesting story. But is it true?
Monolith would move on to f.e.a.r 2 before working on licensed projects like Gotham City Imposters and Guardians of Middle-earth with WB Interactive, who had acquired the studio back in 2004. Both Gotham City Imposters and Guardians of Middle-earth were multiplayer-only games, the former being an online FPS where a team of 6 wannabe vigilantes and a team of 6 wannabe villains dress up in cosplay made from garbage and compete to wipe out the other team. I actually remember it being pretty fun. And the latter is a boring old MOBA set in Middle-earth starring Lord of the Rings characters with the most drab-looking visuals. I mean, how is it that a game set in the world with wizards and shit is the most boring of these two online-only experiences? It's okay though, Monolith's next game would make Tolkien proud even if they do break the lore a bunch.
Shut up! It's fine!
The war for Mordor begins.
Middle-earth: Shadow of War is an action-adventure game developed on the Firebird engine and released in 2017 on PC and consoles. Shadow of War is the sequel to 2014's Shadow of Mordor and Monolith's final game. After the success of Shadow of Mordor, Monolith had big plans for the sequel and began work immediately. Creative director Michael DePlotter said, quote, "This was our ambition to do the big, blockbuster version of the ideas we had begun to explore in the first game. It's kind of our Terminator 2 to Terminator," end quote. Monolith upgraded their engine from the Lithtech engine used in Shadow of Mordor to the Firebird engine, which can support more complex features of the Nemesis system and large-scale battles. The Nemesis system is likely Monolith's greatest achievement, and in 2017, we would learn that the system was originally developed to be used in a Batman game based on the Nolan trilogy of films before the studio canceled the project. Now, I could not find a solid reason as to why the project was canceled. All I could find was that it was likely due to Nolan's focus on The Dark Knight Rises at the time, and potential conflicts with the, at the time in development, Batman Arkham Asylum game helmed by Rocksteady and also published by WB. The Nemesis system would be repurposed and was used as a core feature in Shadow of Mordor and the sequel Shadow of War. The system tracks any Uruk, the big nasty orcs, that the player interacts with, and depending on the nature of these interactions, that Uruk would grow in strength, gain new skills, resistances, weaknesses, and personality traits, essentially allowing the players to create their own unique nemesis throughout their playthrough, hence the name.
The Nemesis system creates a living, breathing, dynamic orc society within Mordor, enabling every player to create their own unique villains and stories.
In Shadow of War, Monolith would improve on this system, increasing the emotional intensity and variety of the emergent stories. The prior version of the Nemesis system also had an issue where competent players, such as myself, would rarely be killed and therefore not get to engage with the system fully. Monolith would rectify this issue by upgrading the Nemesis system in Shadow of War to track players' gameplay style and have enemies adapt to these tactics on the fly, making for a far more challenging experience for skilled players.
I remember that move!
In Shadow of War, players assumed the role of Talion, the Gondorian ranger who fell in battle at the Black Gates and was bonded with the wraith of the Elf Lord, Celebrimbor.
Greatest smith of the Second Age.
Together, they have forged a new ring of power that will allow them to amass an army to fight against the Dark Lord Sauron.
Blind those who seek it, and even the strongest bonds can be broken. The future I have seen cannot come to pass.
Shadow of War was well received, although many did not like the long grind at the climax to get the true ending, especially since the final grind felt artificial and was to many a clear attempt to push players into buying microtransactions to bypass the grind to achieve the true ending. Now, the microtransactions would be removed eventually, and the end game became way less grindy as a result, but it came a little too late as word had gotten around online.
Ever wondered what $100 will get you in Shadow of War?
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
You're a crook. You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this?
Shadow of War offered a definitive ending for Talion's story and left us all wondering not what was next for Talion, but what was next for Monolith. In 2021, WB locked down the Nemesis system with a patent so no other game could use it except for whatever game came out of WB and Monolith Studios next. Rumors began to surface of a DC superhero project in the works at Monolith, and it seemed the system made for a superhero game was finally being used in one. Just the idea of any superhero game with the Nemesis system was enough to get fans excited to create their own superpowered Nemesis with a unique and tailored story to their playstyle. We would get an official announcement trailer for a Monolith-developed Wonder Woman game in 2021, and fans were hyped.
Greatest weapon for a long time has been
scientist playing God.
Monolith Productions had an incredible run in their 30 years in the gaming industry. They accomplished some amazing technical wizardry in their time, with the Nemesis system being their crowning achievement, and launched multiple successful franchises that are so praised in gaming today. I wish the team at Monolith all the best, and also want to thank them for making so many amazing games that brought those who played them some joy and entertainment. I, for one, greatly enjoyed my time with each one of these titles and recommend them highly. I think they all hold up incredibly well and are worth playing today. Now, that is assuming you can get them running or even get them at all. Some of the games showcased in this video are available for purchase on Steam or GOG, and most of them work out of the box. There are a few exceptions though. For one, you may need to tinker with a few titles like Condemned to get them working correctly depending on your PC build. And the entire No One Lives Forever series is delisted. All 3 games in the series are not available for sale due to some licensing issues that have also prevented any re-releases of the games for modern hardware. I know, it's incredibly tragic. However, there is the No One Lives Forever revival project you can check out, which is how I played the games for this video. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Monolith Productions' epic gaming history and unfortunate closure. And while you're there, you can share some memories from your favorite Monolith games. I definitely did not cover all of Monolith's incredible library in this video, so if there is a game I overlooked that you adored, I would love to read about it in the comments below. Remember to like the video if you liked the video, dislike it if you didn't, and subscribe either way. Doing all that YouTube jazz helps me out tremendously and is greatly appreciated. But regardless of any of that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you were entertained and have a cooler-rooney day, bruh.
Cooler-rooney.
Oh, and fuck WB.
Fuck you.
I've seen enough. Shut it down. Bury the hatch, sell the land, and dispose of him.